Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to Halloween Lives, the podcast of Michael Myers. I'm Blaine Duncan, joined by my literal brother from another mother, Austin. What's going on, dude? How you doing?
Same mom. Doing good, man. Doing good. It's been a really cool week again. Where seems like the snowball effect is starting to happen. We're getting more and more of these really cool comments, and you and I were just talking about it off camera. It's going great, and pumped for today's episode.
Yeah, I am too. Yeah, we've got an awesome guest that's going to be coming on here very shortly. We're going to be talking about the newest Halloween fan film, Halloween Stalks. If you've not had an opportunity yet to check it out, you might want to watch it before you listen or watch this episode, because we're going to be talking about it in full detail. So it's on YouTube, and we'll get into the actual the fan film here in just a few minutes.
I'll have it linked in the description as well, so anybody who's watching this video will be able to find it extremely easily. And like you were just saying, highly recommend watching it, even if you're not going to watch this. This is a great fan film.
Well, and what's so cool about it is it's only 15 minutes long, so it's awesome to just be. It's a quick little snippet, but yeah, check that out before we get into things here with Dominick. One thing that we do want to mention: so we started out last week's episode with some really sad news with the passing of George Wilbur. Very sad, right, for the whole Halloween community. We have some good news to report this week, and we talked a little bit about it with Matt Arts from Halloween Daily News. We also talked about it with Sandy Johnson, that the official announcement has come. Halloween 45 Years of Terror is happening this fall. We're talking the end of September, September 29th, 30th, and then October 1st. It's happening, Pasadena, California. Dude, I am so stoked. We're going to try to get out there. If we can get out there, that's literally going to be a trip of a lifetime for us.
Dude, we've been talking before we were doing this podcast, anything like that. We wanted to get out there, go see the stomping grounds of the original Halloween where they filmed everything, and this is going to be an opportunity to do that. I'd imagine the guests are going to be incredible, and I'm excited to meet some of the people we've been talking to on Instagram or anywhere else throughout the fandom. There's people I've been connected with for a decade plus now on the internet that I'm probably going to meet for the first time out there. So If you're out there, feel free to say hello, hang out.
Yeah, exactly. No, we're really looking forward to it. It should be a good time, especially now. Obviously, we've had the David Gordon Green trilogy is over, so I'm sure we're going to see a lot of those actors and people who are in those movies be a part of this. So, man, I'm super stoked. I'm just happy. I mean, I think we kind of knew it was going to happen, but I'm just happy to officially know that it's actually happening. So, yeah, very cool, very fun way to start out the show is to say that we have that. So, I think without further ado, I think we should bring on our guest, and he's coming to us all the way from Canada. Now, Austin and I are from Minnesota, so we're south of you. It's cold where we're at, and I'm sure it's. Yeah, I can just about imagine that we're probably living in basically like in a beach resort compared to where you're at right now. So we are talking with, and I'm going to try to say this right, and if I say it incorrectly, please correct me. Dominick Cousineau-Benoit. How'd I do?
Oh, come on, man. 5 minutes ago offline, you practiced it and you had it even better than that.
Oh, man. Cousineau. Thank you so much.
It would be more French than that, right?
That's right, exactly. He is the director of the latest fan film to hit the internet, Halloween Stalks. I cannot say, well, first off, thank you for joining us on the show. We knew right away that we wanted to get you on the program as soon as we saw it, and just cannot say enough good things about this. And I think for me personally, I think there are so many, there's been so many fan films that are done, and you have a wide variety of really good ones and ones that aren't very good. And I would never talk badly about any of the ones that I don't like, just simply because they're doing something that I don't have the ability to do. But what you did with it was you took it to a completely different level. And man, I cannot say or stress enough that people need to get out there and watch this thing, because it is so good.
I appreciate it, guys. I really enjoyed doing it. Probably the most significant, meaningful, more than significant, though it was significant too, and personal project I ever did.
I believe
I have a hunch. So at some point, it fruited in my head for a while. Is that a word? It fruited. I have some limitations in my with the English language. Huh? You can tell.
That's all right.
It came a long way, but the day I decided I was actually going to make it, that was more of a hunch. It was on my birthday, actually, back in September 7th. I really wanted to do it, but when it's not real and people aren't aware about it, you can always back off and no one will ever know. And I knew if I wasn't about to make a real commitment to it, Halloween Stalks might never have seen the light of day. So on the day of my birthday, I just came online on my personal Instagram account, and without thinking too much about it, I just created a quick story. Hey guys, I'm about to make my own Halloween fan film, and just pressed published, and it was out there and real. And I was so stressed about it, you have no idea, because then I couldn't back off. Now people knew it was the best thing I could have done. Yeah,
that makes sort of hold you accountable to make it happen.
Oh, exactly. And I wanted to make something quality wise too. It's my first fan film, but it's my first professional short film as well. So in some way, it's my directorial debut, if we can say so. Yeah. And I really hoped I could start with a bang or something, doing something I loved. And it's no coincidence I picked Halloween to be my first target or playground.
Yeah. Well, I would say you knocked it out of the park as coming out with a bang, because Blaine and I haven't been able to stop talking about it since we watched it.
It started as an experiment, actually. This film, it's pretty funny when I say it that way, but this film shouldn't exist. It's kind of an accident, because I first had in mind a longer and more complex story, including way more characters, more actors, more locations. But again, that would have been my first film ever. With no experience, that seemed just impossible. So I decided I should start with something smaller, not even a film in itself, just a few scenes, not necessarily telling a proper story, but the goal was to just get out there, go outside at night, experiment, nighttime filmmaking, lighting, and all. But then as I was thinking about what could be those few scenes, I couldn't help myself, but I linked them to each other. And then there could be a scene before that to explain why this happens. And I always get inspired when I go for jogging or run in my neighborhood. And like an idiot, I was always running last summer. So ideas kept flowing, and then it got stuck in there. So I had no choice to just go with it and do something. Maybe not the biggest challenge ever for a first film, but still it wasn't easy to make. I speak a lot, don't I?
No, hey, that's the kind of guest that we want, is we want somebody who's engaging and who wants to talk to us, because that's what this is all about. So no, that's perfect. And Austin, like Austin said, we've not been able to stop talking about it or watching it. I think I watched it today for the 7th time. So I
thank you for the views. That's good for the views.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's the thing, is like we want to support people like you who are continuing to make the story of Michael Myers continue to live on, which is what this podcast is all about. Halloween Lives. We want it to continue on. We don't want it to be over with. And so for you to do that, we want to support you, and we can't thank you enough for doing that. So Dominick, let's go back before you even had this idea to do this. Are you a big horror movie fan? Talk specifically about the Halloween franchise and sort of how that played into your life over the years.
I'm 36 years old. I think one of my first encounter with horror films, it would probably be Jaws. And funny thing, I always saw The Shape. I try to not call him Michael Myers. I call it The Shape. Right. As a great white shark, just gliding silently. You just turn and he's there, but you didn't see or hear him or it coming. So that would be my very first encounter with horror cinema, and the less is more approach from that film really stuck with me. But the first encounter I had with slashers, the slasher genre, was Scream back in 1996, I think, right?
Yes.
Yeah, the second one came out the year after that, and it was 1997. I tend to remember details like that are so useless. I should learn to invest on Wall Street or anything. I know nothing about that, but I remember dates and names that are really useless, but fun to know.
You're in good company.
Yeah.
So Scream, I was 10 back then. I remember I was in 4th grade, and during the recess, all the kids would talk about that film that we had to see. The ancestor of Netflix was like pay-per-view television. We could rent a movie during the weekend, and I remember seeing the trailer in French, dubbed in French, and tried to convince my mom to rent it because it looked so awesome, but she wouldn't want to. So then the next week I would go back to school, and kids, have you seen Scream? Have you seen Frisson in French? Have you seen Scream last weekend? And I had to say no, but then I felt lame and I really wanted to see it. So I don't remember how, but I managed to watch it. And of course I loved the film, and that film makes a lot of references, but it's more than that. It's not subtle. They really talk about Halloween in that film. Drew Barrymore is about to watch that film when she's killed in the opening scene, and at the very end, when Randy is doing his super nice speech about the rules, that's what's playing on the TV right behind him. So those snippets really stuck with me. And I also have a more personal story regarding Halloween. My mom is the most easy person to scare in life. She actually loves but hates horror films because she can't stand the jump scares. And when she was a teenager back in 1978, she was with her then boyfriend in line to go see Halloween in theater.
Wow.
And back then we weren't as exposed to horror film as now. And sure, there was Texas Chainsaw Massacre that came a few years before, but it was rare. So graphic violence and scares, we weren't used to it. So anyway, my mother is in line with her boyfriend waiting for the film, and then the audience would just watch the film come out from the theater room or whatever, and they're all traumatized by what they saw, and they tell people in line, "Don't go see that." So my mom starts trembling, and she looks at her boyfriend, and we're not going to see that. Reminiscent as Jada Pinkett Smith in the opening of Scream 2. That's pretty funny. First time I remember that. But anyway,
that's fantastic.
Yeah. So the boyfriend kind of forced her, or hey, we've been waiting for a while now. Let's go see it. And what she told me is that for the entire duration of the film, she would have her own hand on the hand of her boyfriend. And by the end of the film, his hand was all slashed because every time there was a jump scare or anything, her nails would just dig in, you know? And put all this together, I had to see the first Halloween. It seemed like something out of this world because of those stories. And I managed to watch it, I think, at a very young age too. And it stuck with me. But because of those stories, this film was always in a different space than the rest. Yeah.
Right. I get that. And I think, you made a reference there that it's funny that you said this, because I was just on an airplane. I just got back from Florida here a few days ago. And while I was watching Jaws, as a matter of fact, on the plane, when I got back, we landed, I sent Austin a message and I said, the best thing about Jaws, where a lot of Halloween films have gone off course a little bit, is the fact that you didn't see the actual shark until midway or maybe the second half of the film, where you really got a good look at him. And that's what John Carpenter did in 1978. And so what you said there was perfect, because that's exactly how I feel. That, of course, you love to see Michael Myers. We're the biggest Michael Myers fans out there. But there is some mystery added there when you don't show the killer, as they did in Jaws, or as John Carpenter did in 1978. So, So with your fan film, was that sort of your goal? Because I guess I can see that now that you mentioned that, is you obviously do not see Michael for quite some time, or at least a close up view of Michael.
Oh, absolutely. From the get go, I knew I wanted to try to recapture the vibe of the original. And again, funny story. All the cast and crew who worked on my short film did it for free. Most of them I didn't know prior to filming. I found them on filmmaking groups on Facebook. Actually, I just posted like ads. I need crew. I'm making my own Halloween fan film. Blah blah blah. A few people showed interest, so I contacted them, and I made them the speech and a pitch, like an hour on the phone with every single one of them. And I was referring to Jaws as an example of what I was trying to accomplish with my own film, stating that less is more, and true horror ain't what you see. In my own opinion, it's what you imagine. And someone told me the expression "theater of the mind." That really resonated with me. Makes a lot of sense. The first Alien was kind of like that too. Funny thing, Jaws, we were supposed to see the sharks all along. The reason why we don't see the shark is that it was not an animatronic. It was an animatronic or electric thing. Yeah. The shark was always broken because of the sea salt, and they were behind schedule. The budget exploded, so Steven Spielberg had to figure out ways to make his film without seeing the shark, and then he came up with those POVs. The music was also a good indication of the character. And when they were watching the rushes, what's the word in English? In French, we say les rushes. What you film during the day, the takes or whatever, the footage. Right. At the end of the day, they would watch the footage, and then, oh my God, it works so well, even better than when we see the sharks. Because if you watch the DVDs or go online to look at special features regarding Jaws, there are cut scenes. The first time we see the shark, I think it's the pond scene with the guy in the little boat, right? Mm-hmm. But there was a shot that was cut in which that guy on the boat, like trying to help the kids, is taken away by the shark. It's graphic. You really see the shark, at least half of it, and they cut it from the film because it was less effective than imagining what you saw. Right. So it stuck with me again, and I decided to have this approach with my film. But again, I wanted to pay homage to Halloween, and in Halloween it was quite the same thing. Low budget, so low lights, and I think in many scenes in which the shape is barely seen or seeable, I think it's halfway a decision, but halfway because they had such a low budget that even lighting gear wise, they didn't have much. So when he gets in the kitchen, like he bursts through the door, his hand bursts through the door, and he goes after Laurie, you almost don't see a thing of him. And I'm not sure if it's completely a decision to go that way, or it's because they lacked technical gear, So anyway, I tried to reproduce it as much as I could while doing my own thing too.
Well, you did a hell of a job. I mean, it's
thank you.
The cinematography, is just fantastic. Austin, I don't know, were you going to say something?
So I want to get into the music soon, but one thing I do want to commend you for is what we're talking about here is sort of that slow burn that 78, the original Halloween had. Mm-hmm. And I was just thinking as you were talking, you were able to capture a slow burn in a 15-minute film, which I gotta imagine is incredibly difficult to do. But again, you pulled that off, and I think for Blaine and I especially, we're big fans of that mystery, the shape, no real driving factor. That's sort of our favorite part of that character, and I think that's why we resonate with that film so much that you've created.
I remember during the year prior to filming, just for fun, I was always watching documentaries on YouTube. Everything I could put my hand on regarding Halloween, I would listen to interviews, and many of the actors, Nick Castle, even John Carpenter, gave a lot of interviews, and I watched so many of them that I would hear again the same things to different interviewers. And I remember once that John Carpenter said Halloween isn't about Michael Myers, and I think most of the sequels it's what they might get wrong. They try to make it pretty much all about the shape. But you want to see the shape. The shape is part of the story, but the story doesn't revolve around him or it. It's around the characters, and that's why the first Halloween works well. The slow burn structure allows the director to introduce the characters trio that we learn to know and then kind of like. So when all hell breaks loose by the end for the third act, you're already on the edge of your seat because it's been an hour. You've been learning to know these persons that you kind of like. And at the same time, slowly but surely, you see evil slowly closing in. Sometimes the character do see it without really knowing it. Sometimes they don't, but we do as the audience. We're on the edge of our seat. And I really like that kind of structure. Nowadays, it's more about gore spectacles, and story is like a second in priority. And violence start right away. And that's okay, because there's audience for that too. But personally, I like a good story. Of course, it was quite a challenge to replicate such a structure into a 15 minutes film. And we say 15 minutes, but they are opening and closing credits. So I think it's 11 minutes, 30 seconds of film or something. But I knew I wanted to introduce characters first, and I didn't want to go into brutality right away. But the challenge was into a matter of minutes, to introduce two characters that we would invest ourselves in their story. So how do you do that in 1 minute and a half? So I decided to go with a universal theme, love, right? So I introduced that couple on Halloween night, and to make them special or unique, there was this bet between them. So you just learn to know them, and they look nice. So you root for both of them. Guys will root for Paul because he's gonna get laid tonight. But on the other hand, you have Lauren, who's kind of a strong woman, and she has a good grip, but she's playful too, because she won the bet, but actually she didn't win it because she cheated by hiding a candy. So I thought that introducing them this way was fun. And then we jump into the what we want to see, but we want to see what happens next because we already like those characters. So that's what I attempted. So I'm glad you enjoyed the structure.
And it's so interesting listening to you, Dominick, because one thing that I always say is that, and it may sound strange, but I oftentimes, when I'm watching a movie, and Halloween is a perfect example of this, is that I almost read the film more than I watch the film. And what I mean by that is I'm reading what is going on, what the storyteller is really trying to say, right? And I think it's probably why I get so frustrated with horror movies these days, and why I'm so quick to turn movies off, because if it's 15 or 20 minutes and they haven't set the hook in me yet, and I'm not following what they're trying to do, I'm quick to throw it aside. And I think that's what I appreciated so much about your short film, is that it was able to, I was able to connect with those characters immediately, and that playfulness that you talked about with Lauren, and I was rooting for Paul because you put yourself in that shoes. You've got a good looking girl in front of you, and she's being playful, and you know what's going to happen next. And you did such a great job with that. But at the same time, you were able to create something that not many people can replicate. And even in some of the big production, true horror or true Halloween films, there's a few out there that I don't think they replicated what you did. So it's just fantastic. And like I said, I can't say enough good things about it. But I think Austin, brought up the music piece of it. I guess before we get into the music, I have one question to ask you regarding the intro, because there was, your intro is obviously the theme, or the Halloween theme, but then you also have the Michael Myers mask. Now, what I thought was interesting about that, and I don't know if you knew this and that's why you replicated it, or if you didn't know this, but the original 1978, that was how they were going to open it, was they were going to open with the mask versus the pumpkin. So I was curious, did you know that? And was that the effect you were going for, or is that just totally random that you happened to open on the mask?
And if only I was dishonest and an asshole, I would say, I knew this from the get-go, and it was an homage, but no, I had no idea.
Okay, all right.
Pure coincidence.
No, I thought it worked. I mean, that was what was so fun to see it, is because, we know Halloween 78 is opening with the iconic, jack-o'-lantern. But now to see what you did, it's kind of like, well, this is what it would have looked like, is to see that mask as it's being introduced to the audience. And it worked. So great job on that. Let's talk about the music. And Austin's big into music, so I'm sure he's going to want to know a lot more about this. But talk about the score. How did you go about creating that and fitting that into the film the way that you did?
I was really lucky, actually. I know one of the best composers there is around. When I'm not making films, I work as a videographer. That would be my day job. So I had my small business. I've been working for as a self-employed videographer for 7 years now. And Samuel, I take the English accent to say his name, but his name is Samuel. It's a very funny story. When I started with Prodimage, which is my business, he reached out to me and told me, I compose music. If you ever need corporate music for the videos you make, just let me know. And we actually know each other from somewhere. So we know each other. And he actually dated the young sister of one of my old friends back in the days, but I didn't really remember him that much. When I looked at his pictures, he's familiar, but not more than that. So he reached out to me and invited me to his studio, and we had a coffee. We talked a little bit about what we could do. And I don't think we really worked together for a year after that, because I was just starting my videography business. And when I was doing quotes for clients, I didn't think about including fees for music. But at some point, there was a specific video that I couldn't find the right music. So I reached out to Samuel, and within a question of hours, he came out with the perfect score for that video. So I really enjoyed working with him then. And I started to dig into what he did. And Samuel makes a lot of video game scores, and he's doing more and more short films as well. And when I reached out to him a few months back with the news that I was doing my own Halloween fan film, it really, I think it spoke to him. He wanted to be part of it. I shot the film. I edited it using different score pieces from plenty of Halloween sequels. I remember back then my opening sequence with the mask. I used the opening theme of Halloween Resurrection, which I think is the only good thing about that film.
Agreed.
And I'm talking not the whole piece, not the whole 2 minutes 45, but the 51st seconds of the main theme is genius. But I picked many scores, and not only Halloween. I remember have you ever seen the film Signs with Mel Gibson?
In the last week, I've seen Signs.
Seriously?
Yeah.
So it's fresh in your mind. Early in the movie, I think Mel Gibson is with his young daughter in a room, and he looks through the window at night, and there's the silhouette of an alien on the top of the barn. That sound effects was so creepy. I haven't seen the film for years now, but I remember that sound effect. So while editing what I just have shot a few weeks before, I took that, put it in the editing, and it worked well. So at some point, Samuel came by. We watched my film with that score I just built using existing stuff, and I think we spent like 2 hours going through pretty much every iteration of the Halloween theme from every movie. And I would tell him that I like, that I don't. I like that part of that one. And he left my place with those ideas, and he built it. But in a very, very short amount of time, I think in 2 weeks, he came up with the whole score while working on other stuff, because he's self-employed as well, and he had other things on his table. But within 2 weeks, I think he came up with this. So I went to his place then. We would listen to it, and then I would point out perhaps that should last longer, or just details, just fine-tuning. And I couldn't be happier with the score we have, because it's a unique rendition, yet it really has the feel of Halloween in it.
That's something I wanted to comment on, is because there are elements. And it's interesting now, sort of hearing the way it happened and the way it came about, because there are elements. I hear elements of the newest trilogy, sort of in the under bass tones, but there's something so 1978 classic Halloween about the real piano piece itself, and it's a great blend. And it was, as a guy who recently had to try to kind of make a makeshift theme for this show, I have a lot of appreciation for your curation there.
Hey, reach out to Samuel. I'm sure he'd be happy to make your theme.
I guess.
I have always funny stories coming to mind when you speak about whatever. But recently, on my professional Instagram account, the Halloween Stalks Instagram account, I'm not used to call people fans yet. I feel so big head when I say that.
We're fans. We are fans, Dominic.
I'll call people supporters. So I have a supporter who reached out to me, and we started to talk, and we became friends. And she's working on a short film in the States, and she asked me to have Samuel's contact informations because her team really enjoyed the score of Halloween Stalks, and it's the kind of music and score they would look for their project. So I reached out to Samuel first, not to put him on the spot, and asked him, would you be interested to just talk with them? And I think it's going to work. Actually, he's going to score their film.
So cool. So yeah, you're connecting people outside of even your own
community, film, man. Of course.
Yeah. No, that is so cool. Well, one of the other things that I really appreciated about your film that, again, even some of the legit Halloween films have not done a great job at is Michael Myers himself. Number one, the mask was fantastic, and I want to talk about the mask here in a second. But the actor that you had playing Michael he did a very good job.
Oh, goodness, he's awesome.
He did great, and to be perfectly honest with you, my dream is to play Michael Myers in a film at some point, a fan film, a real, whatever it is. Austin knows this. I've talked about it so many times. So to see some fan films that are out there that don't do a really good job with, the actor who portrays Michael, that's always disappointing to me to see. And in this film, he did a fantastic job. And I know watching a previous interview that you did talking about this, you worked with him and you talked about how he needed to move and things like that. But walk us through that process, not only on deciding on the mask that you went with, but then obviously working with him and trying to get him to do the Nick Castle walk and what that looked like.
Oh my God, that's quite a story here. I really like talking about how I casted my Michael Myers because, and I've been vocal about that too, so I'm going to tell the story, but I think I'm repeating myself because I did a written interview with Rabbit and Red blog in which I did go through that. But let's go through it again.
Let's do it.
I really wanted to pay as much as an homage as I could with Halloween Stalks to the original. I really called that film a love letter to John Carpenter's masterpiece. And my intention was to pay the homage with the film itself, but also in the filmmaking process. And shooting with a low budget, or in my case, no budget. I paid everything from my own pocket. With a small crew, there was already some similarities. As I said earlier, I watched a lot of documentaries and interviews regarding how the first Halloween was made, and it's now common knowledge that Nick Castle and John Carpenter, along with Tommy Lee Wallace, were attending school together. And they were in film school, and I remember that Nick and John, I call them by their first names, Nick and John, my buddies, they would do music for each other's film projects. So they knew each other in school, and not so long after that, John Carpenter made his first very low budget feature. It's a sci-fi film. It's called Dark Star. And he casted Nick Castle for a very funny role. Nick Castle plays an alien. He looks like a tomato. It's a round kind of animal. All you see other than the curvy shape are like hands under him. It's actually really creepy. And he makes funny noise. Like he's I don't know how to name that. But the idea is that they went to school together, and Nick Castle had a role in John Carpenter's first film. I knew Benoit in school when I was in college, in studying films. He wasn't in the film program, but he was in the same school as me, and he played in my first film school now 18 years ago. Time goes by so fast. So there are similarities in both stories, like how Castle and Carpenter worked together. So it was just normal to bring him back on set for Halloween. We remain friends ever since, of course. He's not an actor. Nick Castle ain't an actor neither. At least he wasn't back then when he played in John Carpenter's first film. So again, similarity here. But Benoit really has good intuition when it comes to acting. I remember when I was doing that student film back 18 years ago, I was studying filmmaking, so I had absolutely no experience. I didn't know how to direct actors. And I was blown away by the fact that he was consistent in the way he would play the scenes. He would turn in the same directions, takes after takes, and made my job way easier in post-production because I didn't think about telling him, be consistent, but even his expressions. So years go by, and then I decided to make a certain Halloween fan film. You might have heard about it. And he was my first choice because I remember how good he was in the first film I made. He how can I say that? He's physical. And what I mean is that he plays with not only his face and voice tone, but his body language is expressive too. And Nick Castle is the best at that. Another thing I heard in an interview is that Nick Castle is the son of a dancer who worked with Fred Astaire. So he comes from a family who they move in a certain way, and the shape is really gracious in the first Halloween. It's almost impossible to mimic. We tried to get as close as we could, but Benoit is not exactly on point with Nick Castle. I'm really pleased and happy with the way he portrayed the shape, but it's not exactly that because Nick Castle is Nick Castle and nobody else is. But again, I knew that if he watched the film, which we did, I invited him over and we watched two films. We watched the original and we watched the 2018 remake because I thought James Jude Courtney did a very good job as well. So we watched the films, and then he put the jumpsuit on. I already had my own jumpsuit. It was too tiny for him, so he was all stuck in it. So we had to go to the shop and buy another one for him. But he put the jumpsuit on, and back then I had the mask, but not the one I used in the film. I had the cheaper one. And we just had him practice the walking. I have a long corridor in my place, so he would get out of one room and just walk towards me. It worked so perfectly. I was really, really happy with what I was seeing then. So I knew from the get-go, that's my shape.
That's so cool. That's so cool. It's interesting because I just watched an interview recently with Don Shanks, who played Michael Myers in Halloween 5, and he said that he was told to walk like how wood moves through water. And I think what he meant by that was as you kind of talked about, like there is this smoothness to how Michael moves, and it's almost as if there's no bounce in his step. It's ghost like in a way, and yeah, he did a fantastic job, and obviously credit to you to direct him to do that, because like I said, we have Halloween movies, legit Halloween movies that have been in the theaters that have not been able to replicate that. And damn, man, you came real close. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's so good. So talk about the mask. So what mask did you go with? Did you rehaul it at all? Was there any changes made to the mask? And why was it that you chose that mask versus maybe some of the other variations that are out there?
It is a Trick or Treat Studio 1978 mask that was obviously rehauled by one of the best artists I know. You can find him on Instagram. His IG name is darkness.reigns. For 2 years now, I've been following pretty much every rerollers I knew about, and there are not that much, but there still are a few of them. Most of them now focus more on the recent Halloween films masks, and I really wanted a 1978 version for what I was about to do. And Danny, Darkness Reigns, his name is Danny. I think he's the best when it comes to the 78 looks. I don't know if you ever tried to. I see there are masks behind you, so you bought some. You had to shop for some. Getting a rehold mask these days is no easy task. Reholers, it's not what they do for a living. They do it because they love it, but they have day jobs too, and they have long wait lists. So I think it was almost a year ago. I already had bought a Trick or Treat Studio mask, but from a Halloween store. So it was the $100 version of it that looks really reflects light and the hair. You see that line of hair here. It looks cheap, right? It looks good because the mold is good. The shape of the eyes is pretty good, but the mask in itself, it's not exactly that. So I was following those rehaulers. I actually tried to rehaul once the one I had, but I did an awful job. I think they worked like 2 days on the mask to get this particular look. They redo the paint, but they take off the original paint first. They will redo the hair. They will recut the eyes. It's no easy process. And then one night, I think it's in April or something, I'm about to go to bed, and I'm just, shuffling on Instagram and going through stories. And Danny, at this very moment, he posts a story of a mask he just made, and he's putting it for sale. And it's not an auction or anything. I really thought those artists only worked for commissions, like orders. But he had made that one. And I went through his Instagram, and to this day, I think it's like one of the best masks he ever worked on. It's just perfect. And I really saw his story like 40 seconds after he posted it. So right away, I wrote to him, "It's mine. This is mine. Yeah, take the story off. It's mine. Just give me a few minutes to set a PayPal account, because I didn't even have one. I didn't know how it works. But it's mine." The price was fair too. Of course, I paid extra because of the US Canadian conversion, as I also had to pay for the exportation fees and safety fees as well, in case it was lost. But it was really worth it. It's an expense I never regretted. So I was really lucky.
It's a great mask, and Austin he's pretty good at rehauling masks, and so he knows obviously how much work it is, and he's done a few of my masks. But
are those behind you yours? Like you rehauled them?
This one I rehauled, and this one, yeah, I technically rehauled too.
Okay, technically.
Yeah, I mean it was an indie mask, so it was already sort of that like higher premium.
Already rehauled. You just combed the hair. Hey, look at what I did. I rehauled the mask.
Exactly. That's how I'm a professional at that. And but then obviously Halloween Ends came out last year, and I wanted to capture as close as I could get it. And so I just enjoy it. Like I just have a lot of fun.
How long is it when you rehaul a mask from beginning to end?
I mean, for this one, it was probably, I was lucky enough, I just had like a night to myself. So I spent probably 8 hours, start to finish. But there wasn't like, I didn't have to rehair that one. So it made it a lot easier. But I know that especially I don't have the guts to rehaul a 78 like what you have, because that is the most difficult, subtle, piece of art in that series, and I think it requires such a keen eye to do that, whereas something like Halloween Ends, where he's all destroyed and nasty, you don't have
the imperfections allow you more flexibility, right? All totally. Those lines, those cracks, but when he's really clean, you have to capture exactly what it looks like.
And that was one of the first things I noticed in your film, obviously because that's in the intro. Is I'm a big Trick or Treat Studios fan, and I saw, oh, that's a rehauled TOTS 78, and it looked beautiful. I think it's one of the best sculpts that they have, and I mean I got a huge head, so that mask is. Oh,
those masks are so big, man.
They are.
Benoit had to wear a beanie that we would unroll on his head, because those thicker parts would really reshape the mask in a weird way. And over the beanie, I would also put on him a hood, open face hood. So those two layers allowed the mask to get on his head. And when he would turn his head, the mask would follow, because without any layers under, with the collar of the jumpsuit, if he would turn his head, the mask would remain in place. Because it's too big. It's like it floats on him. But with those layers, it held it in place. And by doing so, I also realized that it helped when we lighted him. One thing you don't want is to see too much of the shape's eyes, but still you want to feel a presence under the mask. If you didn't care about any presence or anything, you will just cut pantyhose and stick like pieces just under the eye holes. But then it's only black, and it seems fake. You want to see the cheek, you want to see the skin a little bit, and even maybe some light in the eye without seeing the pupil, the iris like precisely. And having those extra layers on his head before putting the mask would create a distance between his eye and the mask, maybe like half a inch or something, but that helps. So when I would light him from top, you would see a little bit of the skin here, but nothing more, not much more.
It was fantastic. I mean, again, you have to have, I always reference Halloween 4. I love Halloween 4. I think it's one of the best sequels. It actually is my favorite sequel out of all of them. But yeah, the mask is terrible. And I think, man, if they had actually used a very similar mask to what they had,
it'd be a different movie, totally different movie.
Yeah, I mean, it might be my favorite movie because it's just it was such a great sequel, but then but the mask really took it down a few notches, and you hit the nail on the head with that.
One of my favorite shot in H4 is when just following the scene where different teenagers dressed as Michael Myers appear all around the car.
Right.
And I think those masks look better than the one George Wilbur had on his head. That scene was really creepy. And then the car leaves, and you see the shape in the street, like in the rear view mirror, and there is fog going in the street. That shot is super cool.
Fantastic. Yep.
But then, he has those shoulder pads, and you still see the shape of the mask. That's kind of weird. Imagine having, maybe not Nick Castle, like I don't want to disrespect George Wilbur, who just passed away, but imagine George Wilbur, but dressed with the same mask Nick Castle had, and with no goddamn shoulder pads here, like a normal shape. Right. That would have been the best shot, one of the best shots in the entire franchise.
Right.
Because for the rest, the way it was lit, the fog going through the frame was amazing.
Yeah, no, you're totally spot on. That is a great scene, and it probably, I would agree with you. It's one of the better shots of the whole movie, at least of Michael. I mean, it's very good. So let's obviously, spoiler warning for anybody watching this. If you've not seen it, we've warned you enough. Spoiler warning: both Paul and Lauren get killed in this, or at least you don't. I guess you can't confirm that Lauren was killed, but you kind of assume she was killed based on her screams at the end of it. But those were both off-camera deaths. Now, specifically with Paul's, you see him. He even makes a comment that he's going to go out there and get after the kids, and I think he says something, stick them to the wall like a paint.
Yeah, I love foreshadowing. So.
I know, that's awesome. And then obviously that happens, right? I mean, you get out there and Lauren goes outside to see where he's at, and there he is. He's I think it's a crowbar through his chest, exactly. Right? He's stuck to the wall. So talk about the practical effects of that. What did you do to make that look so great? And did you at all ever consider kind of going with the original idea of the 78 film where there wasn't a lot of gore? I believe you see some blood dripping from his chest. But what did you do? What did you do for the practical effects there?
I had Steven. Steven is the actor playing Paul. I had him signing a release, and we actually stabbed him for real in the wall. It was his last scene, so we didn't need him after that.
It looks.
And I really wanted to look real. Actually, what we did, I wanted to pay homage, of course, to Bob's death scene, but making it a little bit different. So the crowbar came pretty quickly in mind when I was writing the script. I went to Spirit Halloween. Do you have Spirit Halloween stores?
We do. Oh yeah. Yeah.
They were selling that crowbar that looked so real. There was like a foam coat. It was glass fiber in it. It was very big, and when you looked at it, it didn't look like a toy, or it didn't look cheap. The texture looked metal. So I think I bought it for $20. I had my uncle with a saw to cut it to the proper length. I scrapped one of my own white T-shirts because I didn't want to scrap any of Steven's own clothes. He was actually wearing my own coat too. It was hell to clean that afterwards. And he even wore one of my pants and my boots because I knew blood would be dripping on him. So I put all my stuff in the scene. The boots still have red stains on them. So yeah, I scrapped the boots for good for that scene, but it was worth it. So what we did is that, did you go through all of my stories? How do you call that? Just above the grid on an Instagram account, those stories that remain there. How do you call that?
I actually did today. Yeah. I as a matter of fact, I did earlier today.
So if you've been through the one that's called News and BDS, at some point I was showcasing the T-shirt 2 days before the shoot. I had bought, I think, 3 different types of fake blood, a gallon of liquid one, a spray to when someone who stabbed exhales, so I could recreate that, and I had sticky fake blood as well that I could put on the blade of the knife. So I did some tests at home. That was fun homeworks. While people were out there in the bars drinking and having fun, I was home practicing that. So when the time came to shoot the scene, it was cold outside. It was 3 a.m. We had Steven standing on a box, like an apple box, behind the shed where we filmed, so he would appear higher, just like Paul. And I really wanted his head to be close to the ledge of the ceiling, so you would really feel he would be higher. So he's standing there. How do you call that? Pool noodles. Know what I mean? Those foamy long thing. So we had that on set. We cut it a piece like the size of a can. So that can we would cut in 2. We would have a half moon of foam. Made a hole in the middle of it, and we stuck it on the bare chest of Steven. I covered it of fake blood, and that's pretty cool because the texture of that thing seems like his insides.
Right.
A very few people complained that the murders were off screen and that there was no gore. But if one decided to pause the film and really zoom on that specific frame of Paul being in the white shirt of Paul, and you would zoom on the hole in his chest, you would see the texture of that, and it really looks like his flesh. So we stuck that pool noodle on his chest. I put the T-shirt on him again. The T-shirt was already covered in fake blood, and I already had made a hole that would be aligned with that. I can't remember that pool noodle. It's so stupid to say. And then we would stick the crowbar. That was not that heavy because it's mostly foam in it, and it held by itself.
Wow. Oh, wow.
At first, I was annoyed by the fact that the crowbar there's still a little bit of weight, right? It would always lean a little bit further, and I wanted it to be straight like that because I thought visually it would look better. We couldn't achieve it. I really tried to push on it, and I was actually stabbing Steven for real in between takes, and he told me, "Stop, man, you're hurting me." So I decided to let go, and when I watched the footage afterward, it actually looks better. It's more realistic because, first of all, when the shape would lift him and stab him with this, there would be an angle with the crowbar. And also, as he's been on the wall for a while, the weight of the corpse is probably pushing it down a little bit. So therefore, you have the crowbar looking down. So it looked more realistic that way, I think.
It looked fantastic. And like I said, just adding to the awesome things that we love about this film was you did just such a good job with that. And it would be, it's very easy with something like that to miss the mark. And you didn't. I mean, you hit the nail on the head, and you did an awesome job with it. Especially for it being just like I said, Lauren's is her death is off camera, obviously, but to not even see Paul's, but then to get that view of him hanging there, obviously an homage to the Bob kill. And you really, it kind of makes you laugh a little bit because you knew that he went out there to kind of pay or to get the kids a
bit cocky when he's going out. I'll stick him to the wall.
Right, yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I love it, man. You did such a fantastic job with that. And one of my favorite scenes, and I know that Austin and I were actually talking about it before you joined us. We were talking, and I think it's probably one of Austin's as well. But one of my favorite scenes from the film is when Lauren she's sort of in the ravine and she's covering herself up with the leaves. And man, that was so cool because number one, I love the fact that it felt like Halloween, like as far as the season, it was fall, it was autumn, it felt like Halloween. But then when you had her cover herself with leaves, and then you had Michael looking down, trying to find her, it was so well done because you put yourself in the shoes of Lauren, and where are you going to hide, right? You're not going to hide behind a tree for very long, but where could you, practicality wise, where could you hide? Well, cover yourself with leaves, right? And I loved it. And like we were talking about, that nobody's ever done that in a Halloween film before. And it was, dude, it was awesome. And
it's the most Halloween way to hide. It's so cool. I don't know.
Yeah.
We were talking about that earlier. It's so cool.
Yeah, it was.
I remember
awesome.
in Halloween, the Rob Zombie remake. It's not my favorite Halloween sequel at all, but there are still some good parts in it. And I always thought the scene in which Laurie falls into the empty pool by the end was pretty cool. So having, a lower level, there was leaves at the bottom of the pool as well, and you have the shape on an upper level. Just the design, the physical design of that scene really inspired me. And at some point, I was also inspired by the chase scene of Lindsay in Halloween Kills.
Oh yeah,
we don't see much of run in the woods in the Halloween franchise because I think it's more linked to Jason, Friday the 13th. But still, having the white mask just appearing through the trees in the darkness is something I really wanted to experience. And when we were scouting locations in the woodlands we ended up filming, there was this ditch going on for a long stretch with trees through it. We were actually looking for different type of locations for different scenes that ended up in the script and in the film. But when I was looking at the ditch, I couldn't use that. Like, it was perfect. It was, I think, 1.5 meters deep. There was something to do with that. So yeah, I just decided to go with it. I thought also that for the character to cover herself with leaves would be something very raw. Like, we want to intend that it's cold out there. She's running. She doesn't have a coat because when she went out of the house, she didn't figure she would be chased by a serial killer. In her mind, she was going on the patio to find her boyfriend, and then she was just coming back in. But then she has to run in the woods with only a shirt on her, and then she has to go through walking down that ditch and covering herself with that. It felt right. Felt dirty is not the right word, but I don't know. It felt trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wanted to experience experience that. Yeah, I guess explore that. Yeah.
It was awesome, man. Like I said, it was probably my favorite part of the movie. And there's so many good parts, but just the idea of doing that, like, it just brought a sense of reality, or just how real that would be if you were actually in that position trying to cover yourself up.
What would we do?
Right, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I probably wouldn't even be smart enough to do that. So the fact that you had that character do that it was fantastic. And
I do like how it makes it is kind of like an uncomfortable thought to be putting basically your like bare arms up under this like nasty, dead leaves and everything.
But in other situations, it can be good memories. When we were kids, we all jumped into leaves that our parents would just have rattled together. So changing that good memory setup to something terrifying is, I don't know, there was an interesting parallel there too.
I can see that. No, for sure. It was almost as if she was burying herself in a way, as a foreshadowing. She knew what was maybe coming to her. So it was so well done, as was every other aspect of the film. And man, we could sit here all night and we could chat with you. And I've got 1,000 more questions that I could ask you. And we might just have to have you on the show again because there's so much that we could talk about.
It would be my pleasure.
And Dominick, here's the thing, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, man. You made a 15-minute fan film, and we've been talking for an hour about 15 minutes. I mean, you did such an awesome job. I cannot thank you enough. We cannot thank you enough for coming on the show and giving us the opportunity to speak with you. And at the end of the day, I hope, I think there are big things in store for you if you keep doing this. And remember Austin and I, when you were accepting your Academy Award, remember that we were the guys, we had you on the show way back in the day. And no, man, I cannot thank you enough, and keep it up. If you ever get the bug to do another one, know that you've got two fans right here who would be absolutely ecstatic to see you do something else in the Halloween realm.
It might be in the cards. I'm not sure yet, but I do have an idea in mind that I'm developing right now. It's really a question of budget. Making that first film, as I said earlier, I funded it myself, and I think it cost me like $7,500 US approximately. And even then, no one was paid on set, and we didn't have to pay for shooting locations as well. But for the next one, if I decide to do it, I would like to pay my people, because they worked their ass off, and all my crew, they did a terrific job. I mean, you keep telling me how good the film looks, but it's mostly because of the people who came on set, and they all brought their own gear. I of course I had mine too. So we had a pretty good, a few lights that were put to good use on the film, but their knowledge as well, their experience really paid off on the set. They spent 4 full nights, mostly outside, during October 2022 to make this thing happen. So if we go further and do another one, this time around, I would like to be able to pay them and maybe make a little money myself, because it's not only spending money to make a film, but while you're doing that film, you're not working your day job and you're not making money.
Right.
No, that makes total sense. Well, here's what I can tell you is if your Michael Myers doesn't work out, just remember Blaine Duncan. I'll work for free. I'll fly to Canada. I'll work nights, weekends. I can be.
I'll tell you this, he used to scare the shit out of me when I was a little kid all the time. He could do it. I promise.
Yeah, because I don't know you much. I might start to liking you if we get to know each other better. I do like Benoit. I wouldn't want to hurt him. So if you want to come by and act as the shape for the dangerous scenes, then
sure. You let me put on the Michael Myers mask and appear in your film. You can throw me off a building or light me on fire, whatever you want to do. It's a goal of mine.
Yourself a deal.
All right, that's perfect, man. That is awesome, Dominick. We cannot thank you enough. Thank you so much for coming on the show. You're awesome.
My very pleasure.
So, do you want to throw out your social media handles as long as we got you real quick?
Of course. So far, it's mostly about my IG account, Halloween Stalks. Very easy to find. And same thing on YouTube, Halloween Stalks as well.
Awesome.
I'm thinking about doing I call it a web series. I don't know if it's the proper way to call it, but 6 or 8 very short episodes, 2-3 minutes each, in which I would go through some specifics behind the scenes stuff, just like we discussed now, but let's say go in depth of the death, post-death, or the ditch scene, how we managed to do that, because in that scene, there was a foot high of water at the bottom of the ditch. So we had to figure a way so Lauren could lay down in there. There was a good job of planification there. So I don't know if it's something you would like to see, but I'm thinking about making that, and it could come out maybe in 2 months. I don't know.
It's an idea I'm working on. In this vein, I'm 100% in all the way.
Awesome.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But the idea is that if you want to see that, subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow me on Instagram, because I try to keep updating stuff. It's slower now, but if I start working actively on a follow-up, then I might just start be very, very active again on that.
Absolutely.
Awesome,
and you can find Dominick's information in the description if you're watching this on YouTube as well.
Go check it out. Make sure you watch Halloween Stalks. You won't regret it. Trust our opinion. It's fantastic. So Dominick,
film made out of love by a fan for the fans.
That's right. A love letter to John Carpenter. I think that's fantastic. I think that's awesome. So Dominick, thank you so much. We will absolutely stay in touch and keep doing what you're doing, man. We're huge fans.
Sounds good. I have one request before I leave your live desktop.
Sure.
The 3 of us, we will smile like idiots for 2 seconds, because I'll make a screen capture of this to remember.
You got it.
Absolutely.
Put your grin out. 3, 2, 1. We surely look like idiots, but that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I love it, man. I love it. No, we will we'll enjoy seeing that, and we'll be seeing a lot more of you, Dominick. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your night. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for your time, guys, and have a good rest of show.
You too. Thank you.
See you later. Ciao.
See you, Dominick.
Oh man, that was fantastic. Yeah, I mean, it's such a cool dude. Just super laid back, and obviously, a great fan like we are of the franchise. And what I think I appreciate most about what he was saying was just the fact that he like us has studied the Halloween franchise, and he appreciates it and knows what it means to fans. So in order to really portray what he wanted to portray, he knew he had a lot to live up to. And dude, he hit a home run. It's so cool. For people who've not seen it, you got to check it out, because you feel like you're watching a real movie up on the big screen, a real Halloween movie. Totally.
And I think like what you were kind of saying too is like, he talked about things in the way that like it's weird to say, but he talked kind of like how you and I talk about this series. And he thinks about it in that same way, like that very respectful of the original, and still has that fan side to him that really shows up in this film, man. It is definitely a love letter to John Carpenter. I mean, if you like the original film, this is great.
Yep, it's perfect. It's probably, honestly, I mean, I've now, like I said, I think I watched it today for the 7th time. But it's probably something that as we get into the Halloween season, I'll probably add it to like some sort of a playlist where I will watch this, because, and it's not to shit on any other fan films out there, because again, those people are doing something that you and I are not capable of doing.
Oh my God, yeah.
But some are just not great. And just so many different aspects of what he did in this film. It just hits home, and it makes you feel like you're watching a real Halloween movie. So I think for me, it will be, there's an opportunity there that, I'll probably get in on some sort of Halloween playlist that I will watch around Halloween.
I'm going to do the same, and I can tell you this. I'm probably going to be way more excited to watch Halloween Stalks than a couple of the other sequels in this franchise. Not to say anything bad about those either, but I just, pound for pound, the amount of fun I have with that is a lot better than maybe.
I agree. Yeah. No, that's gonna wrap this episode up. It was a lot of fun. Obviously, we can't thank Dominick enough for coming on. And you notice I didn't try to say his name again at the end of when he left. I didn't want to disrespect him and say it wrong again, because he's told me it several times now. Dominick, if you're watching this still, sorry about that. I promise I'll learn to say it correctly. But one thing I did want to mention before we take off is we're going to be doing a giveaway. If you check out our Instagram, we're going to be doing a giveaway of a really cool Halloween 1978 poster from Spookhouse Studios, who is our sponsor for the show. And we'll put it up on the screen here for you guys to take a look at. But this is a poster that was created specifically for Spookhouse Studios. We're going to be raffling this off and giving away. What you need to do is you need to like or follow us on Instagram. You need to like the post and make sure that that you've got 3 people that you're going to tag in it, I should say. So tag 3 people in the post, and then follow us on YouTube. So Halloween Lives, follow us on YouTube. So like the post, tag 3 friends,
subscribe.
and then subscribe. Thank you. Yeah. Do that, and then you'll be entered to win. We're gonna make that announcement on March 1st, and just trying to get some more excitement out there about the show. And like we mentioned at the beginning of this episode, we just actually, right before we came on the show, I got a really awesome message from somebody who just said to us, basically, you guys, you're a couple of guys that I could sit down and I feel comfortable just talking about the Halloween franchise with. And I think that's the ultimate goal of the show, is just to make ourselves be out there and people feel like they can, they could sit down with us at a bar or at a table or wherever it might be and just talk about the love of the franchise. Totally. And I'm looking forward to hopefully being able to do that at Halloween 45 here in a few months. Absolutely, dude. I can't wait. Dominick, come down to Halloween 45. You can check us out, meet Austin and I, and maybe meet some of your idols in the Halloween franchise world. So that's going to do it for episode 6. Dude, we've been doing this for over a month already. Weekly Michael Myers content. We're bringing it to you every single week. We love doing it. We're going to keep it going. And thank you guys so much for the support, for everybody who's liked, followed, subscribed, everything. We can't thank you guys enough. But that's going to wrap up episode 6, and we'll be back next week with another fun episode. We've got some things already in the works, and we'll get ready to do it again. So for my brother Austin and me, Blaine, thank you so much for watching, listening, whatever it is that you're doing, and we will absolutely see you next time.